Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our very first session of the free monthly breakfast lecture, Creative Mornings in Venice. My name is Pia, for those of you who don't know me. Together with my colleague Chiara, I run the Victoria Miro Gallery just downstairs. Following the breakfast, if you want to have a quick look at our current exhibition, please feel free to. As I'm aware of time and I want to give our today's speakers as much time as possible, I will keep my introduction brief. But I do want to tell you a bit about why we are here today. Creative Mornings is a platform that was founded in 2008 in New York, where it still has its headquarters. As of this month, there are 238 cities all over the world that are part of Creative Mornings. Each city organizes a free breakfast lecture once a month, in line with a monthly theme that is chosen by the headquarter. I personally was introduced to Creative Mornings when studying in Copenhagen and have since attended around 20 lectures across the cities of Copenhagen, Milan, and London. It helped me to settle into a new city, meet new people, and start the day with some creative thoughts and new inspirations. I strongly feel that a format like this can benefit the very creative community in Venice. And looking at other initiatives which have started in the past year, I feel that there is a strong need to create moments to meet, to exchange ideas and opinions, to inspire each other and thereby generate value for ourselves as well as for the city of Venice to develop towards the better. Chiara and I have applied and have been chosen to become the Creative Mornings chapter in Venice, which means that we will be organizing one event each month. So please spread the word. These free breakfast lectures are structured into 30 minutes presentation by a different speaker each month, followed by a short Q&A and a 20-minute breakfast, which you can use to connect with other participants. We have also provided some name tags, which prompt a very first topic for conversation. What does perspective mean to you? Our theme for March is perspective. It was proposed by the city of Fargo and illustrated by the designer Fred Gay Vermeo. When preparing Instagram posts to communicate about this very first event, I thought about what perspective means to me. Seeing someone else's point of view is uniquely human. Considering another perspective fosters empathy, and we all desperately need more empathy in this world. Remember, looking at a problem from multiple angles generates more possible solutions. Changing your perspective can change the world. We are excited to start the Creative Mornings journey in Venice with a speaker and a breakfast sponsor that not only share a common perspective on Venice, but are also business partners. Please welcome with me Paolo Rosso, Director of Microclima, and Marco Bravetti for Toccia. Microclima is a research-driven program that focuses on the natural world, cultural heritage, and the public sphere. In 2020, together with Edoardo Aruta, Paolo started Cinema Galleggiante, the floating cinemas in Venice, a film festival on the water that takes place once a year at the end of summer, involving many international collaborators. Currently, Paolo, with the help of various supporters, is working on reviving the island of Sant'Andrea in the Venetian lagoon. And before we try a very experimental breakfast prepared for us by Marco, which will take us on a journey through the lagoon equally, we cannot wait to hear more about Paolo's projects with Sant'Andrea. With no further ado, I leave it to Paolo and Marco. Thank you so much and welcome to Creative Mornings Venice.
Start this series, because thanks for calling me. So I try to do my best to speak in an engaging way. I will start putting a timer, 24 minutes, so then I won't be too long. Okay, great. So, starting from the topic that is perspective, what I can say about perspective is that I always had this kind of idea in relation to space. I can make an example. One of the first projects that I started was in Assam. Assam is a region in Northeast India. And I went there in 2010, like for a private journey. And then I realized that the kind of culture, melting pot of culture, atmosphere, and the whole context was so different from what I was living in Venice, in Italy, that was important to have a kind of connection. This connection happened in a way. So many friends that were doing schools of art, academia, UAM, and these schools were like professional schools in the sense that you learn how to become an artist. In a sense, more about fine arts, in the other, more activism. But I always felt that was a bit too short, too little as a field, the idea of being a professional. So I really thought that these young people needed to go in a place like this in order to arrive to a context so different that would have helped them to think what was the large meaning of what they were doing. And so I started to bring people, like 15 or something like this. During the years came, was a self-made thing, like saving some money for tickets, for apartment. And so we created a kind of community of friends there during 10 years. Unfortunately, it stopped during COVID and still didn't start it again. But the point is that the idea of shifting in a way that is really literal, the point of view is always important. Still, in Assam, the first project was about a bamboo walkway. We made a bamboo walkway that was half kilometer long along the Brahmaputra River and was just to create a space of relaxation, leisure in a city that nobody knows, but is 3 million inhabitants, Guwahati, that we thought that was needed a space like this in which people could walk outside their normal pressure from the city and just relax. So I took already too long to make this introduction, but it was a way now to speak about perspective, and in a sense it's something that is following me and us during all the projects. This because I always perceive myself as a visitor. I started to study art and go to museums in a moment in which I really needed to know about the world, about the human creations in a general sense, through seeing it, through visiting. And so, in a sense, the perspective is always part of my experience. And when I think about the project, I think in relation to how people will perceive a space, will be engaged in a specific situation. Going to the projects that I will speak about today, so the first of the two is the floating cinema, the cinema galleggiante. So it is an idea that me and Edoardo Aruta, that unfortunately couldn't come today, but he also lives in Venice, he's an artist from Rome. We were proposing to the city since already 3 years, since 2016, 17. The bureaucrats said, okay, you're crazy, you cannot make it because it's too dangerous, it's not possible. So we were waiting for the thing, and then it happened something that is quite strange because it was in a moment that was very difficult for everyone and also for the cultural activities. That was during COVID. But during COVID, televisions all over the world started to speak about the driving cinemas. And so we went back to the city council and we said, listen, this is a driving cinema. And so they accepted. And once it started, obviously it became a little I don't want to say tradition, but something that already has a history. And so it goes on, because actually it's not really only a drive-in, because there is a platform for 200 people. Actually, most of the people stay on a platform, no? For the ones I don't know that had the chance to come, we have the shipyard in which everyone arrives, and then there are rowing boats that bring you to this platform. I start already to speak about touch a bit because it's important as a connection. So one part that is very important is about conviviality. With Marco, we share the same vision, and he's much better than me in this sense, in creating environments in which simply there is a connection between people, and obviously food is a privileged way to make it, no? And so since the beginning we started to work together on this idea of having a really conscious part also in relation to food. And so since the first edition, and then obviously it grew the way because obviously we become more expert, we invite a different chef, also with the star Michelin restaurant, but also people that make good stuff at home. So there is really an horizontality in this kind of production, that every night as guests they prepare different dishes. This is a bit the dynamic that I also like in relation to art. I know that always there is this, I don't want to say hierarchic, but in a sense different between worlds, the institutional world and also instead also the part that is more, let's say, underground. What I really love is the connection between the two, and so at the floating cinema in general we have institutions that are known also worldwide, but also very local presences and artists that go spread from artists that are totally known to very young. I mean, last year the youngest was a 17 years old student actually from a high school, and we showed that piece. So in general, this is the central part of the floating cinema. Returning to the idea of perspective, this is really a point, because we call it floating cinema, but actually it's not really a cinema in the sense that long feature film are quite just a part of the whole ensemble of things that we do. And in general, we love the performative side, because in a fragile situation like this, to have somebody performing in different ways is very important, it's very beautiful, because you feel even more the presence of somebody. And at the same time, the other point in relation to also the idea of perspective is the fact that to be there, to gather in that place, in that point, in this, again, situation of fragility, is the point. Is like already something that make a shift between what we normally perceive our ordinary moments and a point of view that is interesting in order to reflect, in a sense, in a different way also, no? To have a different perspective on things. So this really is the starting point. And then obviously, in relation to the content, it started as a collective action, so it's a bit sometimes even cacophonic a bit, but in the sense that as we have many presences, it's normal that the program is not totally linear, but it's also the beautiful of this in a sense. But the point is that, so as everything in art, somebody like one thing, somebody the other, but what everything agree on is that to be there all together is the core point, the strong part of the experience. And so in general, this is more or less an introduction for the floating cinema. So we will go for the 5th edition now, and we work in this way. Now maybe I go a bit to the technical, but I think that can be interesting. We have a few foundation and cultural institutions, some from Venice, some not, and we have TVA 21, Pinot, Guggenheim, Pentagram Stiftung, that is the foundation that runs Stanze del Vetro. Then we have In Between Art Films, and some other presences that support us. Through giving a financial support that makes the cinema run. At the same time, was totally limited and not interesting to have again only presences from whom support us. So out of these 6-7 that support us, we have other 25-30 every year that they don't. It's just shorter the time. Instead of 60 minutes, they are 15-20 minutes. And so we create, again, like a kind of much larger group of initiatives that propose their content. And again, we have from artist spaces, from Venice to the MoMA. So it's really a mix of things. And so this is a bit the dynamic. I think that every time we are discovering more, we are trying new experiments. And yes, this is a bit the center of all. 13 minutes, so maybe I shift already to Sant'Andrea, so it's not, and then I can come back and we can have some questions if you feel like. So I'm not from Venice, I'm from Pavia. I arrived in Venice 16 years ago. I decided really that this was the place, again, for the idea of perspective, because being here and being in the water, looking at human creations is from the last 1,000 years, I really thought that coming from a suburb idea, that in order to have positive energies was the place in which I needed to stay, in order to also think outside my own box and think about utopian or at least idealist possibilities. Venice was the place, at least as a home base, because I really needed a place like this in order to say, okay, if a place like this can exist, I also can do things that I don't even expect from myself. So this is the reason why I'm going But I think that we share, no, in this, most of us, we share, I mean, this idea about the most special side of Venice is so special. Then obviously there are also the other sides, but I always say that that the boat is the reason that keep me here still, because going out, you know, every day with the boat and observing from there. I say this introduction for a reason, because when I got my boat, that still is a long relationship, because it's 16 years that I have the boat, I started to go around the lagoon and I encountered this amazing island, that is the island of Sant'Andrea. Sant'Andrea was the main defense of Venice. It was built in Middle Age, and then in the middle of 16th century was restored by this important Rinascimental architect called Michele San Micheli, that made it in a very special way, in which for the time was really a technical, incredible way of building. And so it was the main defense of Venice, from the main gate of the lagoon, so the one at the end of Lido on the left. At the time there was no Punta Sabbioni. I don't want to go too much in the details, but the point is that it never shot. It was always there, ready to shoot, but it never, because Venice was never attacked directly. The only time that it shot, it ended Venice, because it's 1797, when Napoleon sent this Liberateur d'Italie. It arrived in front. There was already tension, because it was quite clear, because it was ready to conquer the northeast part of Italy. So they shot, they killed the captain, and so this was the final excuse for Napoleon to say, okay, now you stop everything or I completely destroy the city. So in a sense, it's symbolically speaking, it's so strong also because it was a place for the propaganda, in a sense, of the power. Here there is an inscription that celebrates the Magna Navalis Victoria, so the big naval victory, and they speak about Lepanto. Lepanto, they didn't even have to mention the name of this important event in which the whole Europe went against the Ottomans, and they won. At the same time, in any case, the Ottomans slowly they conquered everything. So still, it's about the propaganda, because still, anyway, was symbolically so strong. The wedding of the sea, the Sposalizio col Mare, was happening every year in front of the waters. So important, so incredible. In my opinion, could be like the Colosseum for Rome or the Parthenon for Athens. Obviously from a less ancient civilization, but still, why it's so important? Because from the fort going up to these incredible terraces, you really get why Venice, the most important side of Venice, because even if it's a symbol of defense and so also of violence, of power, of colonization, at the same time it shows something that is so precious, and is the fact that Venice for 1,000 years was part of a map that through the Adriatic and the whole Mediterranean created a very important exchange of knowledge through different cultures. So every science that art that you can imagine was affected by this possibility of communication. And so really it described the most important side of Venice, in which these incredible things come also from the fact that there were influences that went from east to the north, to the south, from everywhere. So this is the core part. And I really think that as a perspective, you can really feel it being on the fort. Then again, something else that is so special is the fact that these are ruins, in a sense, and they are crumbling down. Yes, 2 days ago there were militaries passing with the helicopter, and yeah, that is still a bit strong as a thing, because there is still a military base not far from there, and so they were passing next to the ruins, and was quite a harsh presence. But the point, what's so important is that these are ruins of a past culture and civilization, and sitting there and observing the overgrowing nature coming back, and but still this incredible presence, is so important to reflect, to have a feeling again about what is human presence on the planet, and all this stratification of time that also changed the meaning of places. The use change, and so it really is a privileged place to meditate in general. And I really love it, because I'm in love in general with, this is not an archaeological area, but I'm in love with that, with this idea of something that you observe is no more what it used to be, but you really helps you to think also in a sense about contemporary, about what is now. So this place is so incredible for this reason, and going back to a bit the plan, the idea is that, so 16 years ago I fall in love, was still military, we couldn't access, we just accessed like, you know, in a pirate way, and I loved it, I really thought, but then was like stuck. A few years ago, the Demanio, the military gave it to the Demanio, that is this branch of the government that managed the public heritage, let's say. So from there, it was really stuck still and abandoned. 1 year ago, they made an open call for a little part of it that still is not really part of the island. It's more like a peninsula connected to the previous island. And we made an offer. There were already voices of possible speculations about the island, so we made the biggest bet possible, and saying we, because there was Marco and Tocha with us, and then there is an artist from Venice, Giorgio Andreotta Calò, and his wife, Kirsten de Graaf. Then there is a Norwegian architect that won a special prize for the Golden Lion to Biennale of Architecture for the Philippine Pavilion. His name is Alexander Eriksson Furunes. This is a bit the core team, and then it's enlarged. We have many friends that really help and support, and those institutions. For the first 2 years, the rent was paid by Ocean Space, so TBA 21, and In Between Art Film. So, two person in the two foundation, Marcus Reimann and Beatrice Bulgari, really in a very generous, lovely way, they said, okay, we will support you. Was not enough, obviously, because the rent was not the only thing. We paid 20 for this little piece of land with no electricity, no nothing. We paid 20,000 euros a year, and for the moment it's still a bit silent. So it's already something. And plus, so what's the point? That bring me 4 minutes, yes, bring me to the end of the thing. Is that now it just started an open call for the whole island. So the game totally changed, no? Because initially, initially we had that little peninsula there, then we cross a bridge that is here, and there is the whole island. This is a completely different story, because in a sense, our aim is to don't transform it. Because really, what's the point? When you enter there, you see a kind of suspended place, and you start to think, okay, what it could be? What, this place, this corner, what it could be? What can you make here? And in a sense, to conserve this vibration that you have from the place that is so enigmatic, so mysterious, is the thing that we have to preserve. This doesn't mean that you have to let the structure to fall down and all that. It's not about that, but also to transform it in a campus or in a garden is wrong, in our opinion. Saying this, still, it needs big works of restoration, and there are many possibilities, because even if there is this part that is more about thinking, about observing, there are parts, for example, on the south part of the island, there is a big building that is almost 1,000 square meters that really is collapsing. It really needs a restoration. So out of maintaining this very special atmosphere that is there, at the same time it's important to preserve it. So in order to, which is the plan? What is the plan in order to make it happen? The dynamic of the floating cinema was very interesting for us, because having an ensemble of different presences is beautiful, because everyone arrive with a very gentle and delicate way of approaching. You are not just dealing with one presence, but with many, and so the objective of what you're doing remain at the center. So the idea of the dynamic that we want to follow is this: to not having only one partner, but having many. And so as I mentioned, 2 of them already supported us, but we are really enlarging the thing. So this open call is very strange, because the possibilities about making a museum slash a touristic receptive, I don't know how to translate in English, but yeah, museum slash touristic. So it's a bit like wide the scope, no? Obviously, if it goes in the wrong hands, it will be an excuse, a fake part of, maintaining public days, and then it will become something that is no more, won't have the vibe that you need in cultural spaces, no? So let's see, we are working on it. We are totally open, for ideas and sharing. And there is also a point that can be quite interesting. I'm full of Venetian friends that were born here. Everybody knows Sant'Andrea, and then half of them you ask, have you ever been there? And they didn't. So the invitation is open, in the sense that almost every day I go with the boat there. So the ones of you that feel that want to come, is really 1 hour. I mean, it takes 10 minutes to go there, because it's really next to Certosa, in front of Lido. It's really next door. But it's important to go and have a look and spread the voice and ideas. Because 34 seconds. No, the point is that we start with this larger idea, of connection with institutions, local and worldwide. But at the same time, what we thought for the moment, and again, Tocha was very important for this, is about how do you understand how to act in a place like this, in order to be quite, again, gentle and able to don't make violence to a place like this. And the answer for the moment is in relation to inhabit it, to be there as much as possible, to make moments. So we thought that through sound and music we can find the way. So we had already one performance in October with Enrico Malatesta, that is an experimental musician, so we made it in the little part that we already have, that is this military chapel that is not so interesting as a architectural presence, because it was made by fascists in 1941, and is a neo-Romanic with kind of horrible paintings inside. But still, it's interesting for the idiosyncrasies of this idea of religion and military conquer, like thanks to God we will kill you all, stuff like this. No, so for this point is quite strong. There are symbols of fascism in the patere, in the facade, and anyway. We made this first event, so we will proceed in this same way. We will have on the 11th of May Teresa Wong that is she's a cello player from San Francisco that is so special. And then in June, I still don't know, an incredible musician, Limpe Fuchs. She's 82 from Munich, a real hippie, real special. I mean, and now she's famous worldwide, but since the 60s, she's really totally coherent with her own way of living. Just to say a little introduction to her, we went in January, and she lived in this. She has the studio in this incredible barn from 17th century that they restore, but she sleep in a shack, in a kind of shelter in the garden. That was the same wooden shack that they used on a tractor in the 60s. There is a beautiful documentary about it. So, you know, totally out of what is ordinary, totally another perspective. Just to say that having these moments and presences on the island, we will always make a little workshop in the day for the ones that want to have more, and then in the night, these performances is the starting point that we have. Tocha is very important in this because often the performances also that we make are quite, even for the floating cinema, they say, please, why you always do this stuff? But it's what we love. I mean, art can be difficult. You need the concentration sometimes. But the balance between the two, some performances of things that are very cryptic or meditative or strong, and then a moment of conviviality with Tocha is always important. It's really a beautiful balance between the two things, because you have this moment that can be, you know, very personal and meditative, and then the balance with another moment that still is not like just, okay, a catering, let's drink and eat, but with a consciousness is so important, so beautiful in the balance of everything. And yes, I think that I'm done. Thanks for the attention, and I'm ready for any possible question.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Paolo. Are there any questions for Paolo?
No. As a friend, as a contemporary curator, I want to ask you, because it's something that I really question myself. How do you connect to a certain place? I mean, if you hearing your stories and your projects, you're always changing your perspective, and you always changing your place to act, in a sense. So I want to understand, how is your first approach to the place, and how a place and a space really talk to you?
Very simple, being there. Very totally like easy. All the places, actually there are different projects, but I try to have a long relation with the places, and to be in a place and just stay and pass time, and this can be, you know, in projects like the one in Assam that I mentioned you, or the only really active project out of Venice now is in relation to Mongolia, where I go since many years, not so many, since 2015, but it's the same story, to try to be in a place as much as I can, and from there develop reflection and live in it. And then obviously I have a limited view, but the point what interests me is that what can be common, can be interesting from different perspectives, from different sensibilities. So my approach is really, in a sense, simple in that way. But obviously there is something that touches you a lot in experiences, no? That is very immediate. I try to follow this. I try to be with the immediate thing, and can be the chaotic of a city, or the incredible way of living in other places, or can be the relation with the landscape, like in the lagoon, or with the human creation with the past, like in the island. So it's really simple.
Being there.
Being there and observe, and yes. And again, in relation to art and authorship, I'm a bit in the sense that I feel I like the fact I decided not to don't be an artist myself, because I'm scared about my own sensibility. I don't want to be limited to it. But at the same time, all the authors and artists that I work with, I think that we always work together with an objective that at the end is something else. It's not a celebration only of one specific sensibility, but again, it's a way, it's creating a place where people will come and will live an experience. So in a sense, it's everything around something else. I make an example that is so simple but important, because since some years I started to develop this craziness in relation to citrus, because I have this friend, Vicente Todoli, that worked all his life in museums and stuff, but his parents were farmers, and so he unified the two things of loving museums and at the same time these roots, and he made this foundation that now between Valencia and Alicante that has 500 types of citrus. And there is a library, there is a laboratory, a kitchen, and the artists come. I mean, just now Karsten Oller made a bird cage, yes, in the garden. Anyway, what I love, I speak about this specific thing, is that at the center of all, there is a natural and also human product, like the citrus. And everybody, from chef to artist are all around this thing that is so simple. And so I started to collaborate with this because it really teaches me a lot, even in relation to what I want to obtain in other projects, more related to art. Because with, again, citrus, you have the thing that people come, taste, it's so easy. I become like the connection, people don't get shy. So they are so confident in which you create something so beautiful when I make these tasting sessions, because you become like an hairdresser, or a fruit seller, in which everybody speak with no fear of saying something stupid or stuff like this, and this is so important. But again, to have something, a presence or a product at the center, I really love, because it humbles everyone that works around it. Sorry, long.
No, it's perfect. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question. First of all, thank you for sharing so passionately. Your passion for your projects really does come across so eloquently. If we want to follow and participate in the event on May 11th, etc., do we just follow Microclima?
Microclima, yes.
Okay.
We are not the champions in communication. I have
Okay.
to say, but also Tocha, this we share with Tocha, but no, we always obviously communicate, but luckily now, at least for the Cinema Galleggiante, we have a good website, because I was not part of it. But for all the other projects, no, maybe also for Mongolia, it's quite okay, but in general we are bad in that. But for the simple local communication, yes, like, social Instagram, this kind of stuff. And yes, through Microclima. And yeah.
Well, I will just stand up to say thank you, Paolo. That was really inspiring, and I was very happy to hear more about Santander. And I will definitely book a slot to go and see, because for me as well, moving here 5 years ago, it changed my perspective, and Venice really does something to you, I think, especially if you come from outside. But I hope also for the people that are from here, listening to projects like this, it might shift and change a little bit. Anyways, I hope that you had a fantastic first creative morning, and I hope that it does something with you now for the rest of the day. Given you some name tags, Torcia, Marco, Enrico will now prepare a very experimental breakfast for you, taking you outside into the lagoon. If something has come to your mind that in your life, that through this talk has shifted your perspective, please add it to your name tag. If you don't want to talk to anyone about it, take it home, think about it, carry it with you for the day. If you want to share, feel free to do. That's what this platform is here for. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of you again at the next Creative Morning. Thank you again, Paolo. And thank you, Marco.
Però vabbè, comunque abbiamo, diciamo che più che l'idea di colazione era di portare delle cose che avessero un po' questo significato simbolico, perché un po' la cosa che diceva Paolo rispetto poi al nostro contributo, no? In qualche modo alle cose in cui collaboriamo, al di là del fatto che mi veniva un po' da ridere perché mi sembrava quasi che questa cosa di dire che questo elemento di bilanciamento della nostra presenza fosse che più sono pesanti e impegnative le performance, i momenti così, e più la gente ci vuole bene perché alla fine portiamo da mangiare, quindi sono tutti felici. Quindi un po' questa cosa è anche vera, però diciamo che in qualche modo in realtà l'idea nostra come sembra di portare, cioè come modo per un po' per abitare questi luoghi, queste situazioni, cioè del cibo che abbia questo elemento di togliere un po' il cibo dalla dimensione, no? del consumo, no? E di ridargli questa chiave anche un po' di rituale, di momento in cui si crea questa cosa di comunità. Quindi questo è il caffè d'alga. Quindi per questa cosa qua diciamo che cerchiamo di progettare dei pezzi di cibo che abbiano questa idea di significato simbolico, essere appaganti, buoni, ma che comunque parlino un po' anche, come dire, un po' innescando, seminando un po' di idee. Ecco, questo è un po' l'approccio che cerchiamo di avere sempre, che siano, come dire, pranzi, cene sedute, chioschi come quello del Cinema Galleggiante, i picnic che portiamo anche a Sant'Andrea e in altri luoghi in giro per la laguna. Qui abbiamo portato in idea di colazione un po', come dire, il pane, che vabbè, in realtà è sempre un primo elemento povero della colazione, e però con il tocio, che è la nostra salsa manifesto, quindi l'idea di una salsa che come gesto innescasse una riflessione sul nostro agire come cucina, in un senso di nuovo molto vicino anche all'approccio di cui parlava Paolo, cioè come una cosa collettiva, una creatura che non è, come dire, segnata da una ricetta, un'autorialità, un meccanismo curatoriale anche, no, personale, ma una cosa che viene un po' curata collettivamente. Quindi l'idea era di fare una salsa che ci rappresentasse in questo senso, avendo una salsa che fosse capace di essere sempre diversa nel tempo, quindi veramente unica in ogni momento di consumo, e però capace di essere anche un po' un archivio di tutte le sue versioni passate. Quindi questa cosa l'abbiamo ottenuta mettendo in piedi un meccanismo, diciamo una specie di tecnologia primitiva in cui abbiamo una salsa madre che è una specie di pasta concentrata molto intensa che viene fatta fermentare, quindi una tecnica di conservazione che però in realtà innesca un processo anche evolutivo anche a livello nutrizionale, e poi è fatto di l'idea di innescare, come dire, un processo vitale dentro il cibo, quindi questo è un altro elemento per noi cruciale. Pasta fermentata che continuamente come dire, rinnoviamo, tra virgolette, con nuove partite di salsa e nelle quali mettiamo una parte della salsa fermentata. A sua volta questa nuova partita viene rimessa di nuovo in conserva e rifermentata, quindi si crea continuamente questo ciclo di salsa nuova e salsa vecchia in conserva, e ciclo dopo ciclo questa cosa diventa proprio un archivio, un accumulo, una stratificazione.